Hello, I thought we'd have a little Q&A this week because as nice as it is to reply to someone in a comment section, I really like talking to you all together. And I don't really have time for the video that I planned, so I thought this would be nice. So let's get stuck in, shall we? And the first question is, Del UK says, unusually, you didn't comment on this post in your last video. Yeah, last week I had to have time off, and basically I've read through comments. I always read everybody's comment, but I've only been responding to about kind of 3 a week. We've gotten to the point now where I'm getting kind of hundreds of comments a week across all social media and stuff like that, and it takes tens of hours to reply to everybody. And many people ask the same questions. So what I've started doing is kind of answering stuff in the following, or including those answers in the following week's video, if possible, kind of thing. Or I want to do more Q&A videos like this, where I can sit down and kind of address things that people are asking individually, because otherwise, like this week, a person asks a question, then next week, another person asks the same question. So hopefully I can kind of answer everybody together, and it was taking, like I say, tens of hours every week, which is time that I can spend making more videos or making videos better, which you'll notice this video is in 3K and has actual audio quality for a change. You know, it's nice to mix it up every now and then. But yeah, I've put a lot of effort in the last week in my spare time, just trying to get the camera better and trying to get the kind of the visual aspects of this YouTube channel to be nicer, and also the audio better. So I've been messing with sound files and all sorts, doing all the stuff that I don't usually have time to do, and that scares me, because when you make a video a week and you mess with your camera, you're always petrified of something happening and it not working properly, or like having a terrible quality video or something. You get scared of changing things, really. But that's bad, because changing things is good. Change is a good thing, and kind of making it better, but it's a process, and it took me some time to do. Anyway, Del UK also says, he sees that Burton also now do big cylinder kits. Would I put a big cylinder kit on Jolene? No, I wouldn't put a big cylinder kit on Jolene, because I like the 425. I like how revvy it is. The pistons and the rotating assembly, unusually for an air-cooled engine, are very small and quite light. Most air-cooled engines have a lot of mass to the rotating components, which is one of the things that makes them so kind of torquey feeling. They feel like they carry speed a lot better than, you know, this includes Beetles and 911s and anything that's air-cooled. They feel like they've got loads of pulling power, and they carry engine momentum really well. And that's because in order for something to be oil-cooled or air-cooled, it has to have quite a thickness to all of the internal components, and that stops hot spots. Now, the 425 is just tiny because it's tiny, and the tininess of that gives a really like rally car feeling. She's a really rorty feeling little engine, and 18 horsepower is actually perfectly fine for that car. It only weighs, 590 kilos when I'm not filling it full of stuff. And so the handling of the car is really well matched to the power output, and I just love it as it is. So I wouldn't want to mess with that. And I wouldn't put a big cylinder kit on a 2CV. If I did an engine conversion on a 2CV, I'd get an LNA engine, Citroen LNA engine, which is the engine that was supposed to be in the 2CV. And it's got Nicosil liners in the bores and all of that kind of thing. It's a much more efficient engine, and I'd probably mate it to a GS gearbox. Then you get the big front brakes. But I think that's one of the only ways that you can modify a 2CV and not remove its 2CV-ness. But I wouldn't do that, I don't think, on Jolene. I think she's perfect as she is. Oliver Petrosky says, okay, here is one. Why did you remove the bumper guards and put lights down there on the 2CV? Right. One of the reasons why I did that is because I live in a place that gets really thick mist and fog, and that's because we live in lots of little valleys here. And my car is light green, and so in mist and fog, it's basically invisible. So I wanted to make my car as visible as possible, and I don't like when people put fog lights next to the overriders on the bumpers. That's their personal taste. If you've done that, that's fine. It's not my car. It's your car, so it's up to you to be happy with that. But oh, there's a piece of spider silk just hanging from the camera. There we go. If you're happy with that, that's fine. But I wanted to not drill holes in my bumper, so I removed my overriders, so making it, a more cleaner, simpler looking car, and then used the existing holes for the brackets of my fog lights. So I kept it simple, but also added a bit of functionality. And the third part of that is kind of I wanted Jolene to be instantly recognisable when you stumble across a photo of her on the internet or something like that, or if you see her in real life at a car show. I wanted you to see Jolene and know that that's Jolene. So the bronze wheels, like the paint on my wheels was awful. And so I decided to improve it and put my own stamp on it by painting them bronze. And I also did the fog lights and stuff like that. And it's just a little hint of my own personality in my car without heavily modifying it. I still wanted to keep it a 2CV, and back in the day, back in like the 50s and early 60s, when people rallied 2CVs, that's what they used to do. They used to put fog lights on the front and stuff like that to give you extra light. So I've also got a reverse light on the back, and that's because when I go and visit my friends and like I have dinner at my friend's house, of course, being in rural France, a lot of people have these very dark driveways or very dark garages, and reversing a 2CV with no third windows is difficult enough. So I put a reverse light on my car so I can actually see when I reverse out of places at night. But yeah, that's the front one's a Seeb, and the back one I believe is from a forklift truck. It's a work light from a forklift truck, and it's got an LED bulb in it. Now then, hi Oliver. Is there a specific colour on cars that you just can't stand? This is from Rocket Sock, and it's his first question of 2. So, a colour of cars that I just can't stand. I'm not a big fan of red on cars. I like red on four-wheel drives. One of the cars that I've always wanted is a red Land Rover 130. And one day I'll have one. One day there will be a red Land Rover 130 on this channel. But the reason I like red four-wheel drives is because of mountain rescue. But I don't like red cars in general. Red is a very difficult colour to paint things. It makes cars look very cheap very easily. A great example of that is a lot of Ferraris. A lot of Ferraris look very cheap and nasty in red, especially when they've got like a really tan or pale beige interior. I know why people do it in soft tops, but at the same time, it's not my personal taste. And if you have a red car and you love your red car, that's fine, but this is just me personally. But yeah, I love really oddball colours as well on cars. I love, for instance, 911s look fantastic in pastel pink. They just do. And now go and Google pastel pink 911s. They look superb, like the pink pig racing cars. Yeah, that's super cool in my opinion. But I love kind of ochres and different colours. Do you have the same habit do you have the same habit of feeling guilty of opening new old stock packages? No, I don't. If a new old stock part is just going to sit on a shelf, then it might as well be an empty box. So what I'll do, I'll use the part, have the best running car I possibly can, and keep the box, because I love industrial design and I love industrial art. And one of my mum's first jobs, when she first left art school, because my mum's been a massive influence on my love of art my entire life. But like my mum designed biscuits. And anytime I look at anything, because of the way I was brought up, I try and find the art in it, and I try and find the design in it, because somebody sat there and designed everything that you use in your day and every single package. And those new old stock packages from, everyone from Philips to Bosch to Whipack, not so much Lucas, the green packet with the green packet with a serial number on. Not much design went into that, but there you go. Yeah, so I do keep all my boxes and packages because they're just cool looking. In fact, I often post them on Instagram. John Wagger says, this is not 2CV related, but if you had an SM, what engine would you put in it to replace the Maserati 3 litre and really up its capabilities? Okay, so there is a prototype SM with the V8 from the Bora. Now, I personally wonder, even though an SM is technically mid-engine because the engine is behind the front wheels, I do wonder whether that would make it too front heavy in an already kind of very long car. But I think a Maserati should always have a Maserati engine. And so kind of the Bora, but that'd be a shame because then you'd have to rob an engine from a crashed Bora or something like that. You don't really want to do that. So how about a Quattroporte engine? A Quattroporte with an Audi gearbox. That'd work. Yeah, modern 6-speed Audi gearbox with a Quattroporte engine, still running all of the hydro pneumatics and everything. But at the same time, I'd want to do all of the interior because the biggest problem with the SM, in my opinion, is the interior. The interior, like the dashboard and all of that, is super plasticky and a bit cheap feeling. And I hate the rear light panel as well. The rear lights are awful. And so if you're going to modify a car that much, it would have to be an absolute basket case that was kind of unrestorable. And yeah, you'd have to do it that way. But that'd be cool. Another thing that would be cool is an electric SM. I know a bunch of people have just spat the tea all over their all over the laptops. Before you write me angry comments, certain cars are okay being electric, and if it's a basket case, then in my opinion that's fine. If you have to replace the floors, then there's no problem with putting a battery in that floor. And if you did it right and you still used all the hydro pneumatics and powered all the hydro pneumatics with an electric motor, which could be done because the hydro pneumatic system on an SM sits in front of the engine and is powered by a jack shaft that runs off that engine. So yeah, an electric SM would be cool, you know, silently wafting along on a wave of torque. That'd be cool. If you could keep the weight down, that'd be cool. And an SM's, yeah, reasonably heavy anyway. So yeah, that'd be quite smart. But I wouldn't replace chassis and I'd keep all the character of the car. But I'm not a massive SM fan. I think that the SM was too much designed to appeal to Americans. And hence the horrible add-on looking rear light panel. That boot panel is just awful. But the 270s for me, personally, I'm not a huge fan of 70s cars. Although I do utterly adore the Merak and the Bora. The Citroen Maseratis are the greatest Maseratis ever made, and that's my opinion. The Bora is just an astounding car. So is the oh god, the Grand Touring one. I'll as soon as I've finished as soon as I've finished recording this video, it will pop into my head. But yeah, the GT Maserati. Oh, lovely. What's next? Maxwell says, a Pandora question. Because you're making a new chassis and putting a new engine in Pandora, I assume you're going to have to work with the French authorities, blah, 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 to make kind of paperwork. No, Pandora's British. Pandora will remain British. Pandora has British paperwork and a history of ownership in the UK. I'm going to be using Pandora to go to the UK a lot and spend time in the UK. And so because of that, even though I'm converting it to left-hand drive, that's because it sorts out the weight in the car, and the inconvenience of a super twitchy car is greater than the inconvenience of having to drive on the left in the UK. And I think I've said this in a video previously, but I'd rather drive a left-hand drive car in the UK than drive a right-hand drive car in France because of the way that the junctions are set up. But yeah, Pandora's going to stay British. And in the future, if I ever have to homologate her into France, that's a bridge I'm going to have to cross when I get to it. But I'm not replacing the chassis. And the chassis is not a new chassis, so to speak. The way this works is, right, technically, a GTM coupe is described as a semi-monocoque, in the same way as a Fiat Topolino is a semi-monocoque, meaning you have a floor pan that is pretty flexy, and then when you bolt your body on, they become one unit, and that becomes a monocoque together. So it's not I might have called it a chassis at some point, but it's not a chassis, it's a floor pan. Now, I'm going to be using as much metal as I can remove from the old floor pan. I still have it in my living room of my house, but I'm going to remove as much from that floor pan as possible and reuse it. So I'm kind of maintaining as much of the floor pan as possible while repairing it all. The sills were completely gone and destroyed, and one of those sills had been replaced anyway, and the other one had been all full of expanding foam, and so they needed repairing anyway. So I've made new skins for those. I've made new kind of outer sills. I've made a new centre tunnel because that was bent. But all of the kind of the gussets and brackets and stuff that I can use, I will use. And I want to keep as much of Pandora as possible, even if I was going to put an A-series engine in and I was going to keep the mini subframes and all of that. I would have still needed a new floor pan. And Mr. Hambley of Hambley Sports Cars, who currently own GTM, they reached out to me and offered me a floor pan. And I said thank you very much, but I didn't want to cut up a beautiful Hambley floor pan or even an old GTM floor pan that was in really good condition, because that floor pan can go to an A-series car. It's kind of the same thing I was saying about the SM. I really don't like to be in the habit of cutting up beautiful things that can go into cars that are being restored. I have a love of GTMs, I have a love of A-series GTMs, and I massively respect the people who have like the really old ones, the classic ones, and keep them nice. I'm not a purist, so to speak, when it comes to cars that aren't restorable. But because my car really wasn't restorable, I would have had to replace everything anyway. I don't mind making partly the new floor pan and sorting out all the body and all of that, because like I said, that has been set on fire and stuff, and that's got bad repairs, and I'm going to have to redo that, and I'm going to delete the sunroof and all of that. But I'm still going to keep as much of it as possible, and if I have to rehomologate that in England, where she's from, then I will. And hopefully I'll be able to get the help of Hambley Sports Cars to do that, and Hambley will kind of back me in that, because I want to keep it a GTM. You know, Pandora needs to be a GTM through and through. I don't want to turn her into something that she's not. But I do believe, and I've talked to some of the old owners of GTM, like Howard Heary, and they're about it. Like Howard's like, yeah, it's awesome. You know, he wondered why I hadn't kind of just made a full monocoque, space frame and stuff like that. And he said that he'd tried it back in the day and that it didn't work. It was too heavy. But obviously we have different technology now and stuff, and I might have been able to do that. But like, the owners of GTM through the years are about me building Pandora, and their kind words have been a massive influence on me wanting to keep her a GTM. You know, I love GTMs, and so I don't want to make her into something she's not, but I do believe that if they had the technology that we have back in the day, they would have done a similar thing, maybe not the same thing, but a similar thing to what I'm doing now. In fact, Hambley themselves have a Fiesta-powered GTM, and I can't wait to sit Jolene and their Fiesta-powered GTM side by side and check them out, because even though their Fiesta-powered car is a racing car, it's still wide-bodied and awesome. And you know, it might not be the way that I do it, but I'm sure that Pandora isn't the way that they do it. But that's the beautiful thing about kit cars. You get to build the thing that you've always wanted to build, you know what I mean? And you get to make your engineering experience speak for itself, and they get to make, like, you know, Pandora will be me, and their yellow wide body car is them, and that's awesome. I love it. And that's the beautiful thing about our world. You know, we're all different, and all the cars are different, and that's cool. And hopefully we'll be able to get a big meeting of GTMs together at some point, and I want to head to the UK. I know a bunch of people have a bunch of GTM owners have talked about doing like a classic Le Mans meetup. That'd be cool. But yeah, that'd be awesome. I can't wait to see all the different GTMs, because they're all different, and that's beautiful to me. Autoverse says, if you were to convert a vehicle into a camping car / stealth camper, and you had to store a bicycle inside, what would I use? Okay, I would use, if I was in the UK, I'd use a Suzuki Campervan. And the reason for that is they are cheap to buy, and they are cheap to run, and they are cheap to use. I wouldn't necessarily use a caravan camper. I'd put a pop top, like a pop-up tent on the roof of a Suzuki Carry, and then inside it, I'd put a firewall behind the driver's seat with a toilet and a seat and cooking facilities, so that you can still open the back door. And then I'd use kind of because a Suzuki Carry has 2 slide back doors like this. So even though you have your sofa against the sliding doors, you can slide that back and you can get to all your storage there, like your toolbox and maybe your water or whatever that you need. You can have like a big water tank in there. And they're only 1,000 cc, so you'd have to keep the weight down. But I really like them. Having the tailgate open would allow you to put a bike in, and you'd have a loo, which is massively important. I've got huge experience with campers because I lived in one for a while when we went to Spain, and I've travelled all over France and Spain in a camper van, and I've also lived in yachts and worked on yachts. And so, small spaces and storage and all the things that you need, I'm massively aware of. But I think with a little caravan, you've got cheap insurance, as cheap as a camper's going to be. And it's not, even though it won't be the best on the motorway, it's going to be very cheap to use. And because it's cheap to use, you're going to use it more. And so you can head out on a Friday evening, drive somewhere, get, all of Saturday, enjoy your Saturday, and then drive, and then enjoy most of Sunday, and then drive home on Sunday afternoon and kind of start work on Monday. And so you can, because it's cheap to use, you use it all the time, get away more, and the more a camper costs to use, the less you're going to use it, the more you have to save up before you can go on holiday, kind of thing. Whereas just chucking your surfboard in it or chucking your bike in it, you know what I mean, and going for a blast. And you can, if you have a surfboard, you can put your surfboard along the roof inside of the van. It's just long enough. And if you have your bike, you can probably just put it in the centre, and that should be fine, because you've got 2 entrances and exits. Yeah, that should be all right. You could even put your bike maybe that way if you got a slightly high top one. And that would be my solution. It's slightly awkward in the rain because you'd have to get out your camper in order to go upstairs. But if you're on your own, it's not so bad, is it? So yeah, that's what I'd use. Although designing camper vans is something that I actually do in my spare time for fun. I'm weird, I know, but I've got a book of camper van designs, because at some point I might make one for this channel or on this channel. Francisco says, are you planning to make a trip in France / Europe with your 2CV and make videos? I'd love to do some traveling around France in Jolene, but there's two things stopping me. Well, 3 things stopping me. One is the current health crisis. I had a trip planned in Jolene for last year and obviously didn't get a chance. The other thing is that I'm building my house, my dream home. And even though that's kind of on a slow burn, in fact, do you like the new pointing? I was trying to get the pointing all done before the first frost. Unfortunately, the first frost was like 4 days ago because of everything that's going on, as well as having to stop work and make videos. And instead of having to stop work and making videos, I've had to stop doing the pointing. So yeah, everything's kind of on hold at the minute while people aren't well and stuff. But I'm still trying to get the house done, don't get me wrong. And hopefully springtime would be nice moving in. I'm hoping to get all my floors in and stuff through winter. But obviously things happen in life that are beyond your control. And this last 2 years has been a prime example of that. So it kind of gets done when it gets done. And people who email me wanting barn videos, trust me, I want to be in my house a lot more than you want a barn video. I appreciate and love the enthusiasm, but I trust me, fly on me, yeah. I just want to be in my house. Miles Taylor says, so we will do Jolene traveling around France, especially. I get invited to stuff around France quite often, and I really want to go to the Atlantic coast. I haven't been to the Atlantic coast of France since I was a kid, and Jolene is the perfect car to do that, even though it will take a while. I've even considered doing Circuit des Ramparts in Angoulême, because that's not far from me and stuff like that, or going to Montpellier and shows. There's loads of beautiful and wonderful shows around France, and if you're an organizer of one of those shows, make sure you get in contact with me. My email address is with all my social media down in the comments, down in the doobly-doo, the whatever you call it, the description. Miles Taylor says, what made you choose an AZ8 rather than any other 2CV? Right. There were 3 cars in the running when I bought Jolene. I really wanted a 2CV, but I was struggling to find one. Another car I would have considered is an AMI 6 Estate, but I really kind of wanted a soft top, and the ability to be able to put stuff out the roof is really handy in a 2CV, and that's something that you don't get in an AMI, even though you do get a bigger engine. And the other car that I was thinking about was a Renault 4L van, because I like both the Renault 4 and the 2CV. It's not a war, it's a friendly rivalry. But I like both of them, they're both good. But I really wanted a 63, 64 AZ8. The reason is, it's the first year of negative earth electrics, which is nice. 50s cars, as awesome quality as they are, they're not massively usable every day. They're a great weekend car, but unless you go anything more than 50 kilometers out of your kind of circle of where you live, is going to take a considerable amount of time. Whereas Jolene can do 90 kilometers an hour and just, cruise along on and keep up with traffic a lot more than a 50s car can. But she still has the suicide doors, and she has a hatchback and all of that, and she's massively usable. I can get more in her than you can in a 2CV van. And she's older, so she's mega quality. I'm not a massive fan of the quality of 2CV6s, and the 602 engine is a bit lazy. It's not as fun to drive as the 425 is. So I just love that era of car. I love that she has no shock absorbers. I love the way she handles. It's a little rally car, and even though you can't relax when you're driving it, because you've really got to drive it, you've really got to enjoy the act of driving to drive an AZA like that. And of course, parallel parking's a pain because you've got no third window and all of that. And she's not so great in a city, but that's a worthy sacrifice to me, because she's fantastic off-road. In fact, she's better off-road than the Diane is. So I just love my AZA. And even though I'd never driven one, when I bought it, I made the perfect choice, and I'm going to keep that car forever. Right. Ben Heinst says, sorry if I've just butchered your name. Pros of cons, or am I pro or con traffic clutch? I'm not a big traffic clutch fan. It's a heavier flywheel, and one of the best things about the 425 is that it's revvy. There's also a spring in the throttle rod, and the spring in the throttle rod is there to kind of settle down enthusiastic use of the throttle, so fast throttle response. And I like the light flywheel on Jolene. I wouldn't make it any lighter than it is, because I still need to get up hills, but at the same time I need throttle response. So yeah, I wouldn't go for a traffic clutch car. I think they're great for weekends and stuff like that, and they might make it Jolene better in a city. I have no idea, but I wouldn't be tempted to go for a traffic clutch car. Although I think the engine that I've got in the shed, my spare engine, I think that's a traffic clutch engine, but I'm not sure. It does have a different flywheel on it than Jolene. Who else? What else? Paul Kitston says, is your Sunday lunch an English one or a French one? It's definitely not an English one, because I don't eat meat. I don't know if I've said that before on this channel, but I don't eat meat. I don't know. Sunday is a filming day here, so we usually have lunch at about 3:30. I start work early. I'm a morning person. I get up at 5:30 every day. And so I'm one of those super annoying, energetic morning people. And if I film in the afternoon, you can probably tell I'm probably like really lethargic. I'm not an afternoon person at all. So I have to kind of start really early and have a really good day, and work an intense shorter day is far more productive for me than a longer day. And so I have a short productive day with very few breaks, and then I finish at about 3:30 and have my lunch then. And we usually have lunch as a family. We have like a big family table and stuff, and we have kind of whatever someone else has cooked, because after a long day of filming, I don't want to cook. I just touched the microphone. Sorry if that popped or cracked. But yeah, after a long day of filming, I don't want to cook. Axiom just gone past. So yeah, whatever's going. My mum makes a mean pie though. My mum makes an awesome pie, and if we have, like I say, if my mum cooks or Miriam cooks and stuff, I don't know. It's whatever it is. So it might be curry, it might be pie, it might be, I don't know, whatever's going. Lentils, don't know. I'm not, despite not eating meat, I'm not actually a picky eater. So I don't know. We've never really had a traditional family Christmas meal. We've never had a traditional family Christmas meal, that's for sure. But we also don't really do Sunday lunch. Paul Campbell Music says, cross plies, yes or no? Cross plies on a car that should have cross plies, yes. Going very, very sideways at 15 miles an hour on a wet road in an Austin A30 is one of the things that made me fall in love with cars in the first place. Like, I liked cars because my dad likes cars, but going very, very sideways and sliding and drifting around in an A30 just as a small child just lit my world alight. It was superb. And it was like, yes, this is what I want to do. I want to do indecent things in awesome little, little classic cars. And so cross plies are awesome. You get no grip anywhere ever. And I do love the Michelin X being the first radial tyre and the first tubeless tyre, I think. The X and the XAS. But I can very much appreciate the ability to slide round, yeah. But tubeless tyres are also awesome for fuel economy and stuff. So on a fun weekend car, yeah, cross plies. On a daily driver, I'd be tempted to go for a car that has tubeless tyres, and especially in a vintage profile, so like a Michelin X. Sven Hope says, what's your favourite poem? Oh, I love poetry. I haven't read poetry in quite a while though, just, life and stuff. But I love... I love John Cooper Clarke. John Cooper Clarke's fantastic. Beasley Street and stuff like that. But John Cooper Clarke needs to be read by John Cooper Clarke, so it's almost spoken word. It's almost transcends poetry. And I don't think it's the same unless John Cooper Clarke's reading it. Rudyard Kipling, If. If is a fantastic poem. Okay, I'll get it up on my phone, hang on. If you keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you but make allowance for their doubting too, if you can wait and not be tired of waiting, or be lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good nor talk too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, if you can bear to hear truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make traps for fools, or watch the things you've gave your life to broken and stoop and build them up with worn-out tools, if you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it all, if you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss and lose and start again at your beginnings and never breathe a word of your loss, if you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve in turn long after they are gone, and hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings nor lose common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count on you but none too much, if you can fill the ungiving minute with 60 seconds worth of long distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it. And what's more, you'll be a man, my son. I absolutely adore that poem. It's one of, and that's Rudyard Kipling's If. Gary Moon, one of my first ever subscribers, one of like the first 25 or something like that, maybe even first 20, says, how's the bikes? The bikes are good. I haven't had enough time this year to do tons and tons of cycling, but I'm still loving riding my bike. And I don't regret stopping making cycling content because it's really nice to save my cycling time for me. Even though cycling in videos, if you don't know, I used to cycle quite a lot. And if you go back to the beginning of this YouTube channel, there's still some cycling reviews. Even though I had to remove a lot of the cycling content from this channel, even though I loved it, YouTube now only wants you to make the same video forever, which I refuse to do, but at the same time, like, keep it in one subject if I can. Except for house videos, of course. But yeah, kind of basing my business, which, you know, as much as I love making videos, I do want to make a living doing it. So it has to be treated to a certain respect as a business, to a certain extent at least. Basing my entire business on my fitness, I always planned to do car stuff anyway, but basing everything that I was doing on my fitness was a mistake, especially when you're in, you know, your late 20s, and if you pull a muscle in your leg, you're doomed for a couple of weeks. And you know, that was definitely made obvious in Spain when something out of my control happened. You know, I got hit by a car, and unfortunately I had to take time off from cycling, and I tried to make cycling content, and I rushed back into cycling faster than I should have. And when I arrived in France, I ended up paying for it, if I'm honest, because I didn't take the time to recover properly, because I was thinking of the channel and not myself. So now I keep my cycling to myself. I'd love to bring bikes into the channel in the future. We might do a bike restoration as a short series or something. Let me know down in the comments below if that's something you'd be interested in. I love cycling, and bikes are one of the most beautiful and elegant technological and engineering solutions ever devised. When you are on a bike, you are the most efficient animal known to man. How cool is that? Yeah, love bikes, love cycling, and yeah, I'd love to do a bike restoration or something like that on the channel and take it for a spin. But I'm also enjoying just on the times when I do go out, you know, finding time to take a day and just heading out on my own with some food in my pocket and kind of just riding is the coolest thing for me, and it really helps me to relax. Adam MacLeod says, question, dearest Oliver, could you please tell us something about you that we don't already know? Something interesting and not necessarily car related. I hate clowns. Clowns are awful, they're a terrible idea, and they're a thing that shouldn't exist anymore. It's not necessarily a fear of clowns, although, you know, fear is fight and flight, and my reaction to a clown is to get incredibly angry. They're a thing that gets in your face, and I don't like people that cover up their faces. I think there's something, I don't know, someone who chooses to cover up their face, you know. Like, I get drag queens, they're a laugh, but I think that someone who intentionally obscures who they are, especially around children, knowing what we know about, you know, all of the Citroen AX van, if you can hear that, knowing what we know about all of our childhood entertainers that were on TV, there's something very dark and dubious about clowns, and I just don't like them. It's got nothing to do with the film It. In fact, the happy clowns to me are creepier than the intentionally scary clowns. So yeah, hate clowns. If you didn't know that, now you do. Bear of Good Times says, Have you decided a final colour for the build? Red is final, question mark. Okay. El Rojorge also said the same thing. Maybe too early, but have you got any ideas about paint? His is a two-part question, so I'll read your answer to your two together. I do know what colour I want to paint it, but I'm not going to tell you. That's the answer to that question. Yeah, I know what colour I'm going to paint it. I've been kicking different ideas around for a while now, but I think I've settled on one. And what's it going to look like when it's done? I don't like modernised cars. I don't like modern wheels on classic cars, and I don't want Jolene to. I don't want Pandora to look modified. I want it to look in keeping, which means to me, GTMs were designed in, what was it, 1938? So I want to keep it kind of late 60s, early 70s. And that's a really good period in time for mid-engine cars. There was a bunch of car companies at the time that made kind of mid-engine road-going racing cars, and a lot of Group 4 mid-engine cars at the time, and a lot of kind of pre-Group B mid-engine rally cars. I'm thinking Ford GT70 and the Lancia Stratos. You know, you've got 911s, you've got Lotus Europas. Is it the Type 49 that's the racing Lotus Europa? Gorgeous car. And you've got things like the Group 4 Maserati Bora racing car, the Lamborghini Jotas. Like, you've got all that cool stuff happening at the beginning of the 70s, because the 60s were too good of a decade to die, and that did really go into the beginning of the early 70s. So I want to keep a period correct. I want to do it old school. I don't want to keep her a classic car while keeping kind of a modern powertrain, but making it kind of aesthetically classically looking, I think. So yeah, that's kind of the plan, and you're just gonna have to wait and see. But I'm not going to put modern wheels on it. I'm not going to make it into a racing car. There will be no giant wings. It will be a road car. And I want it to be able to sit next to its contemporaries, its classic contemporaries. Things like Acers, 911s, Lotuses, you know, and look the part and not look out of place. You know, Singer, as cool as they are, a Singer looks like a Singer. It doesn't just look like a classic 911. And I get it. But at the same time, it's not for me. I like classic cars to look like classic cars, and they kind of look like classic cars. But you know, you've got the projector headlights and all of that. I'm not going to do that. I've already picked out headlights and all of that, and I've got a really good idea. Well, I've got a stack of drawings of Pandora that I've done. Alex still says, "How has the Diane been since the overhaul?" The Diane's been great. We've rebuilt the master cylinder. I wasn't happy with the brake feel in my last video with it, and neither was Dad. So we bought a brake master cylinder kind of rebuild kit, and we've done that, and now it's bob on. And I've been using that for the last couple of days. And I drove it around the other day to try and find steel all day after Jolene broke down, and she was utterly faultless. So superb. Below the 2CV says, regarding getting a body shell repaired for a 2CV, not gonna lie, I need it. Okay, the first thing that I would do is I'd add up how much a replacement body shell would cost. If it's that bad, if it's really, really, really bad and you're gonna replace 99% of it, it might be cheaper and more effective just to start off with a brand new body shell. And otherwise, I would make sure that you get panels, and this goes for a brand new body shell as well, because there's a couple of people making them. But I'd make sure you get the best possible panels you can afford, because quality in these things really matters. When it comes down to what the steel is and how the steel has been formed, it really matters. And it makes the difference between a car that looks like a 2CV and a car that looks like a 2CV that's been like restored, if you will. But yeah, and if you're going to cut all your floor out, make sure your weld braces in, because your body will bend, and then you won't be able to get doors shut and stuff like that. Okay, what's any more for any more? We also have someone, okay, Nagmus, who's asking about my doctor's bag. Right, I keep a doctor's bag in the back of my car as a tool bag. And it's pretty much stayed the same since I put it together. And the reason for that is that You can take most of Jolene apart with a flathead screwdriver and a 12mm spanner. I've also got a 17mm in there for some stuff, and kind of the wheel brace comes in very handy as well. But for 99% of things, you just need like a couple of 12mm spanners, an 8mm spanner. I've got a teeny tiny multi-tool that's a bunch of teeny tiny spanners for tightening up my wing mirror if that ever comes loose, because you need it in Jolene, only having, my rear view mirror, because you need it in Jolene, even though it's the size of a makeup mirror. But yeah, I've also got a multimeter in there and stuff like that, and a bunch of bulbs and stuff. But other than that, there's not a mass that you need. I would definitely put a tool bag in any car that I will ever own. Pandora will have a tool roll. I'm going to make one, and I've got some cool ideas for that. And the cool thing about making the car in the first place is that you get to choose your bolt sizes and stuff. So I know what bolt sizes I'm going to need, and if I might put like a compact ratchet set in there and stuff like that as well. So yeah, a spider's web. So yeah, that's about it. But my bag hasn't really changed. I want to get some like cool patches and stuff like that to put on it and make it look like a period correct tool roll, really. And the same goes for Pandora as well. That might be something in the future I might do. If we do merch and stuff, I might do some patches and stuff. Let me know down in the comments below what you like to see. Because, you know, merch in the next kind of year or so might be a thing that we do. And let me know if you're interested in that kind of thing. Right, so I have to go and do life stuff now, but thank you all for stopping by and kind of spending a bit of time and having a chat with me. That's been really nice. I always read every single one of your comments, like I say, so thank you all for writing them. In the last week, well, 2 weeks, I've had a tough couple of weeks, and some of your nice words have really, really helped in that time. You know, a lot of people say to me, you help me in my week, and I look forward to your video all week. Well, I look forward to your comments. So thank you all for commenting and sharing these videos on social media and stuff. And people who share the videos on social media and tag me in the videos and stuff and be like, go follow Oliver, he's awesome. Like, that's the biggest vote of confidence ever, and it's heartwarming. So thank you to everybody who writes comments. Like I say, even though I might not have the time to reply to every single one, I make sure I read every single one, and your comments really mean something to me, so thank you for that. And thank you for subscribing and sticking with the channel and supporting me in my journey to build cool classic cars and an old house in France and try and make as many videos as I can in the process. Luckily, internet speed around here, even though I'm still on mobile, is getting better, which is why we're now on 4K. So I'm going to make a concerted effort to make these videos better and better and better. So if you keep watching them, I'll keep making them. All right, thank you all for watching. Please be awesome to each other, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.